There should be no law against killing people. I know it's a wrong thing, but hell. You restrict somebody from it, they're gonna want it more. We thought our victim in Saz, maybe. Our first victim is going to be Cassie Stoddart. She's gonna be alone in a big, dark house out in the middle of nowhere. How perfect can you get? The city of Pocatello is located in the northwestern state of Idaho. It's largely made up by members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and is considered a safe, close, and tight-knit community. Known as the Gateway to the Northwest, for over 100 years Pocatello has been home to tourists, travelers, and residents alike. It is a place that people are proud to call their home. However, in 2006, the city of Pocatello would be at the center of one of the most horrific and disturbing murders in modern U.S. history. Just 4 days before Christmas in 1989, Cassie Jo Stoddart was born. She grew up in a secure and loving family who thought the world of her. She was a committed and straight-A student who kept out of trouble, had lots of friends, and was on the right path in life. As she was both reliable and trustworthy, her aunt and uncle, Allison and Frank Contreras, asked her to house sit for them and watch their pets whilst they were out of town. So on the evening of the 22nd of September 2006, she headed over to the house. Whilst at the home on Whispering Cliffs Drive in northeast Bannock County, she invited over her boyfriend, Matt Beckham, at around 6 p.m. Later in the evening, her school friends, Brian Draper and Tori Adenchik, who she went to Pocatello High School with, also visited. She gave them a tour of the house, and then they settled in to watch a film. The teens were halfway through Kill Bill Volume 2, when Brian and Tori said they were going to go to a cinema to watch a film instead, and with that, they left. While Cassie and Matt continued relaxing, without warning, the power went out. Unsure as to what to do, Cassie became uneasy, but before long the power came back on. Matt spotted one of the dogs staring down the basement stairs before it started to bark and growl, but he thought nothing more of it. Matt rang his mother to see if he could stay with Cassie that night as she felt unsafe. His mother said no, but said that Cassie was welcome to stay with them. She declined, saying that she had been asked to look after the house by her family and felt obliged to stay. At around 10:30 p.m., Matt's mother arrived to collect her. Matt decided to see if Brian and Tori wanted to meet up, so called them. As they said they were going to the cinema, Tori was whispering so Matt couldn't hear what he was saying. Matt ultimately decided to stay at home. 2 days later, on Sunday, Cassie's family returned home to Whispering Cliffs Drive. Upon entering the house, Cassie's 13-year-old cousin was confronted by a horrific and traumatizing sight. Cassie was found on the living room floor, having been stabbed to death in a frenzied and brutal attack. The police quickly arrived on scene and sealed off the area. An autopsy revealed that Cassie had been stabbed approximately 30 times, with 12 of the wounds being potentially fatal. 3 days after Cassie's body was found, the police announced they had made arrests in connection with her murder, and this would send shockwaves throughout this tight-knit community. Brian Draper and Tori Adenchik had been taken into custody and were being interrogated by investigators. People were stunned. These were not only classmates, but trusted friends who Cassie enjoyed spending time with. Both boys were considered social outsiders, but Cassie had embraced and befriended them. Brian had spent most of his childhood in Utah before his family moved to Pocatello. It was at Pocatello High School that he met Tori Adenchik, and they soon bonded over their mutual love of film. They used a camera to document different aspects of their lives, and Cassie soon featured in many of their recordings. On September 27th, after hours of interrogation, Brian Draper agreed to lead officers to where he and Tori Adenchik had gotten rid of the items they had used in Cassie's murder. Amongst the items were a pair of black fingerless gloves, several knives, a partially burned mask, a Sony videotape, and a partially burned handwritten note. Police tried to decipher what the note said and were able to determine a few sentences, parts of which read, "Is home alone, stop out the house, runs into Tori, we murder Cassie, Brian chases her, kill her." The terrifying picture was starting to become clear. This had not been a spur-of-the-moment murder. This had been a carefully planned and executed crime, a fantasy that they had been determined to carry out. As the investigation continued, they uncovered more disturbing evidence against Brian and Tori. The pair had filmed Cassie on the morning of the murder when they were at school. Investigators also found footage of them gleefully talking about what it was they were about to do. There should be no law against killing people, and no, it's a wrong thing, but hell, you restrict somebody from it, they're gonna want it more. We found our victim in Saz, maybe. She's our friend, but you know what? We all had to make sacrifices. Our first victim is going to be Cassie Stoddart. She's going to be alone in a big, dark house out in the middle of nowhere. How perfect can you get? I mean, like, holy shit, dude. I'm horny just thinking about hell yeah. The full horrors of what happened to Cassie Jo Stoddart that night had finally become clear. Whilst at the house and giving them the tour, Cassie had shown them the basement. And before they left, Brian unlocked the door to ensure that he and Tori could re-enter the house without them being noticed. After they said they were going to head to the cinema, they left the house and returned to the neighborhood later and parked down the street. I was 9:50, September 22nd, 2006. We know there's lots of doors. There's lots of places to hide. I had locked the back doors. That's all locked. Nowhere's gonna wait. They left the car and put on dark clothes, gloves, and masks before heading back to the home. They let themselves in through the unlocked basement door and cut the power at the circuit breaker, plunging the house into total darkness. They hoped that Cassie and Matt would come down to the basement to investigate, but when neither of them did, they turned the power back on. The dog that was growling and staring down the stairs had spotted the pair of them hiding in the basement. When Matt rang to ask if they wanted to hang out, Tori was whispering so he wouldn't be discovered hiding inside the house. After they were sure that Matt had gone, the pair cut the power again. Brian opened and slammed a door at the top of the stairs. The aim was to scare Cassie as much as possible. They then terrorized and terrified her, before brutally stabbing her to death. The disturbing details did not stop there. The police soon found the following footage. I just killed Cassie. We just left her house. This is not a fucking joke. And I stabbed her in the throat. I had saw her lifeless body just disappear. Dude, I just killed Cassie. Fuck. That felt like the real. I mean, we're by so fast. The fuck up. We gotta get her out. Tori Adam Jick and Brian Draper, two seemingly unremarkable 16-year-old boys, were charged with first-degree murder. During the interviews, the boys turned on each other. Brian initially said that while he had been in the room when Cassie was murdered, it was Tori who had stabbed her and not him. He later confessed to stabbing her, but said that it was under Tori's orders. As the pair went on trial, the small city of Pocatello became the center of a national media firestorm. Journalists from all over the country had gathered to follow this disturbing case to its conclusion. The damning video footage was shown to the court. Stunned onlookers watched on in silence, and they saw how Brian Draper and Tori Adam Jick had meticulously planned their crime, and the glee they had taken in murdering their classmate and friend. One question that people wanted answered was why. Brian revealed that he had been inspired by Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, who became internationally notorious when they carried out the Columbine High School massacre in 1999. Tori Adam Jick was said to be influenced by the classic horror film Scream. The first film focuses on a group of high school students who are terrorized and hunted by a masked killer. Part of the killer's modus operandi is they scare and terrorize their victims before brutally stabbing them. On the 17th of April 2007, Brian Draper was found guilty, and less than 2 months later, so was Tori Adam Jick. They were convicted of first-degree murder and received the mandatory life sentence of life without the possibility of parole. They also received 30 years to life for conspiracy to commit murder. The life sentences given to the pair could be reviewed as the case of Miller versus Alabama. declared that mandatory life sentences without the possibility of parole for juvenile offenders was unconstitutional. Since their sentence, the pair have filed several appeals against their convictions. However, none so far have been successful. They are currently both serving their sentences in the Idaho State Correctional Institution. In the years following the murder, Brian and Tori have appeared in several documentaries about their crime. Tori Adamczyk was also interviewed as part of an episode of the true crime show called Justice. He was suspected of stabbing a woman to death in her own home in Pocatello just 2 years before the murder of Cassie. Although DNA evidence would eventually rule Tori out, the police were able to gain further insights into him while they were investigating. They conducted a telephone interview with Brian Draper, who revealed some disturbing details about Tori's personality. Did Tori ever show you any knives that he collected or kept at his house? Yeah, he keep out like 4 or 5 knives in his closet, and he's sure to be. Hey Brian, did he ever talk to you about him mutilating animals or things like that? Yeah, he used to talk about how he used to kill cats. I'd be hanging out from when he'd take his cat and he'd choke his cat. You know what I mean? The little bit he's watch this. I'm okay. He said that he killed a cat by he buried it inside the ground except its head was exposed. He ran over it of the lawnmower or whatever. Tori's mother Shannon has also written a book about her son's case called The Guilty Innocents. The book takes the reader behind the scenes of the trial. She argues that the prosecutors did not care for the truth, but more about public opinion, and that the defense team her son had, who had never argued a murder case before, lacked the experience her son needed to fight his corner. In 2010, Cassie's family launched a civil claim against the District of Idaho. They argued that Brian and Tori had long posed a threat and danger to others and that the squad had been negligent in failing to notice. The civil court dismissed their claim alongside the state Supreme Court, saying that the actions of the pair were not foreseeable. The devastation caused by the murder of Cassie Jo Stoddart is both irreparable and immeasurable. The day she was found in her aunt and uncle's house, the family left and never went back. The police helped tidy up the crime scene and provided temporary accommodation, but they could not bring themselves to re-enter the home. They have repeatedly tried to sell but have not been able to find a buyer. Her devastated family have fought tirelessly, not only for justice, but to ensure that the bright, funny, and hardworking Cassie will never be forgotten.